Do you want to be ahead of the game for the latest in arts, music, cuisine, and entertainment across the Middle East's most dynamic capital cities? Al Monitor is proud to launch our City Pulse newsletters, focused exclusively on local news, starting in Riyadh, Dubai, Istanbul, and Doha. Each week, our on-the-ground writers in these cities cover the latest cultural happenings and trends, so you have everything you need to know for the best local experiences. To subscribe for free, go to almonitor.com, that's al-monitor.com, and sign up on our newsletter page.
Welcome back to On the Middle East. My name is Amran Zaman, and today I'll be once again discussing the Iran conflict. Last week we had news that the Trump administration was in the midst of arming Iranian Kurdish opposition groups based in Iraqi Kurdistan. They were meant to cross into Kurdish majority areas across the border in Iran and aid in the overthrow of the clerical regime. This, of course, caused a huge stir. Soon after, though, with quite a bit of nudging from Turkey, I'm told, Trump did one of his classic U-turns. He declared that much as he loved the Kurds, the United States would not be carrying out any such plans. With me here to discuss the Iranian Kurdish movement is Asso Hassan Zadeh, a prominent member of the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran. It's one of the oldest Iranian Kurdish opposition parties, and it's part of an alliance of 6 Iranian Kurdish opposition groups. The Iranian Kurds have been dormant for years, but the war against the regime is breathing new life into their quest for equality and the right to self-rule inside a democratic Iran. Welcome to our program, Asso.
Thank you for having me, Amberin.
So Donald Trump has withdrawn his support for arming Iranian Kurdish groups to help overthrow the regime. Are you surprised by this U-turn, and what does this spell going forward for organized Iranian Kurdish resistance against the Iranian regime? Is there still room for US or other support? Would sustained targeting of regime forces in the Kurdish areas clear the ground for your forces to move in, for example?
Well, I'm not really surprised because, it's very much Mr. Trump's style to make contradictory statements, either because he himself is still hesitating or because he wants to, wage a kind of psychological pressure on the other side. It's true that we hear more and more talk about a possible cessation of hostilities, mainly because of the impact of the war on the global economy and regional stability. But the intensification of strikes yesterday and today suggests that the United States and especially Israel may still be tempted to finish the job because Iran does not seem to be ready to capitulate. And as for us, as Iranian Kurds, I think it is too early to talk about a real U-turn. The information I have suggests that a form of partnership between Iranian Kurdish political forces and the Americans is still on the agenda. The fact is that 20% of the strikes on Iran have targeted Iranian military bases in Kurdistan, and those strikes have intensified even yesterday. The regime cannot fall through airstrikes alone, we know that, and obviously not through peaceful demonstrations either. And since there will be neither major defections within the regime nor American boots on the ground, well, the only realistic way to remove this regime would be a popular uprising combined with a, let's say, ground operation by the Iranian Kurdish coalition or other similar forces in Iran, if they exist. But without U.S. military assistance and without guarantees that civilians would be protected afterwards, the regime could brutally suppress such an uprising. In any case, Kurds of Iran, while not being part of the conflict in its origin, they can, and I think they want to be part of its outcome, not only to help bring down the regime, but also to help build a democratic alternative for Iran.
We've heard, though, in the meanwhile, that the Iranian regime has made some overtures to your alliance, the six-party coalition that you formed amongst yourselves in February. Is this accurate, and what are they proposing?
Well, I'm speaking here in my personal capacity. I cannot really provide with details, but all indications suggest that Iran has indeed tried to send such a message to the Iranian Kurdish parties. But the Kurds have a very bitter experience, as you know, of negotiations with the Islamic Republic. In my opinion, even if the regime tried to use this tactic, now that it is close to collapse, the Iranian Kurdish coalition will simply ignore such an offer if it hasn't already done so.
Well, we're not sure really if the regime is close to collapse or not. There's a lot of different analysis of that, but your party is the oldest among the Iranian Kurdish opposition groups. However, like most of the others, you guys have been stuck in camps deep inside Iraqi Kurdistan, pretty much because your Iraqi Kurdish hosts, under pressure from Iran, have forced you to move away from the borders. So, what is the level of your organization inside Iran? Do you have forces who are active there?
Well, as you just mentioned, for several decades, the room of maneuver of Iranian Kurdish parties has been extremely limited. But the fact that their headquarters and bases are located in Iraqi Kurdistan, and they have maintained trained guerrilla units and still have a real social base and a strong influence among the population. All these give them a privileged position compared with the Iranian opposition in exile. If we put aside their military inferiority of the Iranian Kurdish forces, which is, of course, a major weakness, but not a weakness that is insurmountable. The Iranian Kurdish Peshmerga forces are unique in their kind because of their perfect knowledge of the terrain, their networks and connections inside Iran, and the capacity, because of the existence also of active members inside Iran. Yes, they have such a capacity to liberate Kurdish areas and even go beyond that when the time comes, provided that they are not left alone.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al Monitor to follow what leaders and decision makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.
The Iranian Kurdish parties, much like Iraqi Kurdish ones, and dare I say, the Syrian ones too, have a long history of infighting. However, in recent years, there appears to be growing unity. The two wings of your party, for example, reunited. And on February 22nd, as previously mentioned, a coalition of 6 parties was announced. How confident are you that you can overcome any remaining differences, that you can sustain this unity? What are the challenges and what are the opportunities?
Well, I do not deny that in the past there were divisions and tensions between some of these parties, but nearly for 40 years, despite, of course, political differences, there has been no internal clashes between them. On the contrary, in recent years, Iranian Kurdish political forces have moved toward greater unity, especially with the recent creation of the Iranian Kurdish coalition. Of course, these parties have different political programs, but at the moment, they are really showing a strong sense of responsibility and a very good level of coordination on all fronts. So I'm not worried at all about this issue, even though it is always something that requires vigilance.
One of those parties, though PJAK, is widely accepted as being the best organized and the strongest among the groups forming this coalition. However, it's also listed as a terrorist organization by the United States Treasury. Doesn't this pose a problem? Can you be confident also that this party, PJAK, given how strong it is, that it would be willing to share power going forward?
Well, no one can deny the proximity that exists between PJAK and the PKK, but to my knowledge, PJAK itself is not on the main list. I mean, the State Department's terrorist list, the famous FTO list. In any case, from my point of view, this is essentially an American problem. As you know, such a designation can evolve over time. For example, the Mujahideen of People were once on that list and are no longer today. So despite legitimate questions about the PKK immediate ambitions in Iranian Kurdistan, I can only say that PJAK is currently behaving in a responsible way and coordinating with the other parties. In any case, I think that it is better to have them inside the coalition than outside it.
Just to remind our audience that the PKK is the armed Kurdish group that was fighting the Turkish state for the past 4 decades, but last year announced its dissolution and said that it ended that campaign in line with a call from its imprisoned leader, Abdullah Öcalan. He's in prison in Turkey, and that's part of an ongoing peace process in Turkey. Now, the Kurds in Iran are divided broadly between Sunnis and Shia. The exact percentage of each side is often in dispute, though people, I think, more often now say that the Sunnis dominate. And it's also often stated that Shia Kurds are better integrated, and that generally Iran, for all its brutality, has been more accommodating of Kurdish culture and language, at least. Could you kindly comment on this?
Well, the Iranian regime has never been accommodating toward Kurdish language and culture. The only thing that exists is that speaking Kurdish in private life is not prohibited. And there is a limited tolerance for Kurdish language private classes, I mean. We have even seen Kurdish language teachers arrested and sent to prison. In any case, the Kurdish language is still banned from the official education system and from public sphere more generally. The situation of the Kurdish language and culture, I think, is better even in Turkey than in Iran. But, well, more fundamentally, I think the Kurdish issue in Iran is first and foremost a political issue, that an issue that the regime denies and represses. Now, as for Shiite Kurds, who actually make up a very significant portion of the Kurdish population, especially in strategic regions such as Ilam and Kermanshah, it is true that historically the center of gravity of the Kurdish movement in Iran has been in Sunni areas, but religion has never been a driving force or a dividing factor, let's say, among the Kurds of Iran. Today, we see a strong nationalist awakening in the Shiite regions of the Iranian Kurdistan, and many of Peshmerga fighters and even commanders actually come from those areas.
There appears to be quite a lot of tension between you and the opposition groups, including accusations that you want to divide Iran, that you want other ethnic groups to also rise up and end up dismembering the country altogether. And that's certainly the regime's narrative as well. So how can you overcome this kind of deep distrust?
Well, these accusations are not new. And as you said, we heard them both from the regime and from parts of the opposition, especially from the Pahlavi camp. But the Iranian opposition, as you know, is far from being homogeneous. Iranian Kurdish political parties have good relations with many other groups and are in coalition even with some of them, including with some secular forces, leftists, and a segment of the Republican camp. But what is still lacking is a common platform for the entire Iranian opposition, a platform that could truly reflect the aspirations of all Iranians. And one of the key issues actually is precisely the position to adopt toward our legitimate demands and the legitimate demands of the oppressed peoples in Iran. But in any case, if you look at the political program of Iranian Kurdish political parties, you come to the conclusion that they are struggling for the realization of Kurdish rights within the framework of a democratic Iran, and they have shown that they are sincere in the formulation of their demands and objectives. Recently, the Iranian Kurdish coalition rejected these accusations in the clearest terms through two statements. And in any case, well, we are not going to abandon our demands simply to please those who want to reproduce an authoritarian centralism in Iran.
Well, Asso, I think that this is an issue that we'll continue to be following very closely. The world is now aware of the Iranian Kurds, which they haven't been for decades. So we look forward to talking to you again in the future. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure.
And this brings us to the end of On the Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And for more in-depth reporting on the Iran conflict, please go to our website, www.al-monitor.com. Thank you and goodbye.